Good morning, mi gente. This is Ray Collazo, and you're listening to the Found in Translation talk show. This talk show that stacks truth about politics and today's hottest issues. Thank you so much for joining us. This is your host, Ray Collazo, kind of the Café con Ray edition of Found in Translation. Everyone that knows me personally knows I'm not a morning guy. Just keep it real. I need to do better at that. I need to embrace the morning like so many overachievers do. But in fact, I'm taping and doing the show live on video for those watching, and we appreciate those hardcore early morning watchers of Found in Translation. They're checking us out either live on Facebook, YouTube Live, or on Twitter. And you can catch the show as a video platform as well on YouTube and as an audio show anywhere you can download a podcast, as well as on WPPMLP 106.5 in Philadelphia. Hashtag People Powered Media. People know normally I tape this on do the show usually on Thursday evenings or other evenings. But today, because of my personal schedule, got to get the kiddies out from work early and do some things for work. I am doing a taping and doing the show live Monday morning, first thing, Cafe con Ray edition. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you're watching, I know there's a couple people watching in the early morning. Feel free to hit me up on the comments so I know you're alive. So I know I'm not here alone. That would be very helpful. Later on the show, we're going to talk about the two Sonias that have impacted my life over the years and are impacting our lives every day. And of course, I had to get this out. My compadre, Cesar Santiago, texted me late at night on Saturday and said, Ray, you got to do a show about the Nevada Caucus, man. What's going on? What are going to be the implications for the latest results over the weekend? And I really want to talk about the bigger picture as it relates to, is this a prelude to how the Latino vote is going to make an impact in these upcoming 2020 elections? Good morning, Victor Negron, my main man in the squeeze, as my dad would say. Thank you, Victor. See these overachievers, the real ballers here, these early morning people. So I definitely am not one of them, but I will get there. I am getting there, Victor. Thank you again for joining us on Found in Translation. So let's get right to it. Nevada Caucus. I don't think of things happening slowly in Las Vegas, but in this case, we are counting votes and tabulating caucus results in Nevada at a snail's pace. But the last time I checked late last night, it is clear that Senator Bernie Sanders has already been declared the winner. Really, the only issue here is second place. It appears like Biden will keep a very thin, Vice President Biden will keep a very thin lead for second place. It was actually pretty significant for his campaign, and closely followed by former South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg, and everyone else pretty much way behind. And in fact, they were even way behind. I mean, Bernie doubled the second and third place finisher, which I think even for people that knew he was going to win, like basically all of us that were paying some attention, and I spent some time in Las Vegas last week, it's pretty obvious he would win, but I don't think anyone thought he'd be approaching getting half the votes and half the delegates. So what does that mean for the rest of the field? Again, it's very interesting because if you watch the punditry class over the weekend, they basically have been parroting what your man Ray has been saying for about a year. And in recent, which was big picture when it relates to Senator Sanders, that passion in his ride or dies, which I've been saying for years, Bernie Sanders supporters will slash your tires for him. That kind of passion to mobilize, that passion for their and what they believe Senator Sanders' movement represents for their community. That passion cannot be underestimated in politics. Where was the passion in 2008? Where was the passion in 2016? Choosing where the winners end up. So our only question was, what was the ceiling for his campaign? And in fact, this jumbled field has been very advantageous for Senator Sanders. But even beyond the jumbled field, he obviously, his message and his organizing acumen has been and his specific tactics as it relates to the Latino vote and the youth Latino vote in particular, being a key part of his coalition, is really bearing fruit. And as you see that advantage, that tactical investment that the Sanders campaign has made over the last several years, since 2016, when Sanders was nowhere with Latinos when he started, nowhere with people of color, is bearing a lot of fruit. And you're seeing the lack of connection, despite her fantastic policies and her excellent sort of candidacy, that lack is really undoing Senator Warren, frankly. So, in terms of the Nevada, what the Nevada results mean, it's what I've been saying. This had Senator Sanders is the favorite, no question about it. And after March 2nd, if the tsunami, this Latino tsunami, voter tsunami really hits big in California and Texas, it might be over by next Tuesday, depending on those results. I still think Bloomberg, because he can buy so many things, he can buy out the field, he can just keep buying people off, and there's going to be a great desperation by the Democratic establishment for Senator Sanders not to be the nominee. I think he still is viable just because of that wealth. And I think as a candidate, he's going to get better, a little better and better as we go along. I thought, frankly, Bloomberg's interview yesterday with Al Sharpton on MSNBC was pretty good. I'm just keeping it real. I thought he came off a lot more cogent and even slightly believable in his explanation of his plans for economic empowerment for the Black community and felony reenfranchisement, as he certainly did in the debate where he looked horrible, and he's generally looked horrible in his political career. So we will see. But in terms of, I struggle because on some level, I've been saying Pete Buttigieg would be the kind of the only other alternative. Maybe small chance he could thread the needle between Bloomberg and Sanders. And he is functionally in second place. But the more and more I look at how poor he's doing with minority voters and the growing influence that minority voters are going to have in this process, not only with the Latino piece and African American piece in California and Texas, sort of coming to the front and center of this election cycle, but just the prospects of him zeroing out in the deep South with Black voters does not portend well for him at all. And that's why probably at this point I would say Vice President Biden would have the third best chance, just because he had a fairly strong result with the Black community in Nevada, which always gets forgotten about, frankly. The Black vote in Nevada is one of the more underrated electorates in our country. Nevada, 10% of the population, and is a very strong electorate in a swing state. A strong performance or at least a winning performance in South Carolina after Nevada at least keeps him in the game. The issue with Vice President Biden is he's not good at fundraising. He has no money. And they put a chyron up that as of Saturday night, now the Super Tuesday is a week from tomorrow, March 2nd, he had done no TV ads in Super Tuesday markets. It's only a week from now. Whereas even Klobuchar spent some money in comparison. So it's not looking good for Biden from a longevity perspective. And he's really going to have to garner support through his brand and the force of his brand and connection to Obama. I mean, it's really what he has from a big picture perspective. Victor, the results were very strong. And I think Victor Negron, Philadelphia activist and healthcare executive, is asking for people that aren't watching the video. Any turnouts results from Nevada, I'm concerned with the lack of excitement outside of Bernie. Bloomberg will buy it. Yes, that is his plan, Victor. Well, I'll say this, that the Nevada caucus, we will see final results, I would imagine today. We are going to, because they had the early vote dynamic, there was as many people that voted early, Victor, in Nevada, because they did have a 4-day early vote option last weekend or the weekend before, that as many people voted early as they did entirely in 2016. So we will have exceeded 2016 numbers, even though it was an expanded opportunity to do so. It's my impression we got very strong turnout in Nevada. So I think the Nevada, that all the campaigns put a lot of investment into Nevada. And look, it's relatively easier to organize. You're talking really two media markets, two cities, Las Vegas and Reno, the Reno metropolitan area. It's where over 80% of Democratic voters live in the state. It's a very odd state, from that perspective, and a third Latino. So it's got, there's you have tactical advantages of concentrating your Latino outreach efforts into, basically one city. So in terms of kind of where we go from here, Sanders may already, after Super Tuesday, have an insurmountable lead or a very difficult lead to overcome. And everyone's freaking out. Moderates are freaking out. The independents are freaking out. Democratic establishment's freaking out. Even good Democrats are freaking out. And this is what I got to say about it. And I had these conversations with all kind of high end. I was in Chicago at the U.S. Hispanic Leadership Conference over the weekend. I was in Nevada on the ground. I mean, I was at events with the DNC. I was with senators. I was with former Latinos in the cabinet. Victor Negron, I had the honor of being. Imagine Friday night, I had dinner with Nelson Diaz, Aida Alvarez, Dr. Antonio Novello. I ended up seeing Rich Negrin out in Chicago briefly. So, I mean, I was with some legends in Latino politics and in the service, in our service sector, and all kind of people are freaking out about everything as it relates to the, potentially having a McCarthy-esque figure at the top of the ticket. And Joseph MacArthur was I believe, a Massachusetts senator or a governor that, was basically kind of, some would argue, a Bernie type figure, kind of a progressive figure that mobilized a lot of young people and got creamed in the 1972 election by Richard Nixon. So a lot of people are rightfully so concerned that could potentially happen again, and there could be a wipeout here, and 4 more years of terror by this president. But I must say this: that A, it's going to be a close election either way, and B, I have to, if I'm thinking about who the nominee should be outside of ideology, I have to err on the side of where the passion is and where the base is. And so too many times, Democrats have chosen, and even Republicans at times, have chosen kind of the more moderate, safer option and got burnt. And because there wasn't that excitement. And when people that have approached me saying, Ray, this is a disaster, Ray, this is a disaster, Ray, this is a disaster, I asked them, I said, well, what's your alternative? And what I don't hear is a great fever for Vice President Biden, a great interest in Mayor Pete. And they're really the only ones in the game. Some people think Bloomberg just because he has the money, but who's really excited about Bloomberg outside of people getting paid? I still haven't seen anyone that's not getting paid by this man go out there with any putting their reputation out there for this guy. Everyone's getting paid real nicely, and there's no coincidence to that. So, to me, if you're going to mobilize the base of our party, which is young people, progressives, and people of color, these are your options, my friends. And for my friends that are upset at this, delusioned by it, I'll say this, with all due respect, Democratic moderates are real lazy. And at the core of this, that's why Sanders is winning. It's not because of it's not even because of ideology as much. I mean, that's obviously part of it, and credibility and a feeling that he's sort of an honest. But quite honestly, he's done the work. Progressives have done the work, even beyond the Sanders campaign, thinking about all the progressive movements in our community, whether it's around gun control, the environment, immigration. The immigration activist class is a big part of Sanders' organizing base. All these youth movements, around these areas. So if we want a moderate option, one that appeals to the white working class, one that appeals to union workers, one that appeals to that sensibility, you got to do the work and organize your people. And look, and I love Joey B. Joey B, he talks about, we got to get the lunch pail white guy in Pennsylvania and Ohio and all these places. What's he been doing the last 4 years to mobilize them? Sanders has been out there mobilizing the woke. And he's hitting, and he's bearing, and it's bearing. And by the way, that movement is also encapsulating as many or more of those people that Joe's talking about that disaffect the white working class person as any of these other candidates combined. So guess what? You do the work, you get the kind of results that you got in Nevada and Iowa and New Hampshire. So we'll see. Really quickly, like I said, I think does a nominal victory in South Carolina where Biden's holding on by his fingernails propel him 3 days later with no money? I don't think so. And by the way, I think even Latino activists have underestimated where the young Latino, young Latinos are going to save us. All of us. We're going to save the whole country. Because let me tell y'all, people, I was in Las Vegas early this week. I was in Chicago. And in Chicago at the U.S. Hispanic Leadership Conference, much respect to the legendary civil rights icon, my mentor, many of y'all's friend and legend, Dr. Juan Andrade. If you don't know Juan Andrade, Google him and spend about an hour of your life reading and studying this legendary civil rights figure in the areas of civic engagement, education. This man once got arrested for teaching in Spanish at a public school in the state of Texas 50 years ago. A true hero. We would not have bilingual education in the state of Texas without Dr. Juan Andrade. And that's just the tip of the iceberg of his incredible career. So I was at his conference in Chicago with Latino leaders and Latino young people from all over the country. And I just want to stress to y'all, the passion, the nobody in our country feels the imperative to defeat Donald Trump more than these young Latinos whose parents are on the ones whose parent, I'll get to that in a second, Troy. Caesar, that's a good question. I do it early morning for you, Caesar. That's why I'm doing it this morning. Whose parents are the ones that are under threat of deportation. Their friends are on the ones in threat of deportation. The ones that get harassed at these checkpoints in the southwest part of this country. The ones who don't know, who are going to college and don't know what kind of future they're going to have in this country because they're in mixed status families. The ones that get bullied in high school or throughout the country, the ones that are getting bullied in college, the ones that are getting bullied at their workplace, the ones who are really on the front lines of this wave of xenophobia, they're responding with a tsunami of voter participation. And that's why, fundamentally, Sanders did so well as he did. That's why I predict Sanders is going to keep that wave, going to keep coming. You think Nevada was something. Wait till California, which I said on my IG, which are the wokest, the mostest, and they're the biggest group. They could be 40% of the electorate on Tuesday in California, over 35% of the electorate in Texas. Wait till they get in the game. And I think that could make a tremendous difference. And I think I even underestimated that factor. Cesar Santiago, my compadre, the reason I am doing this show this morning, who do you predict Clyburn's going to endorse? It doesn't matter. Of course, Congressman Clyburn, who's in the House leadership, one of the venerable, old school African-American congressional leaders, Democratic leaders. You know, there were reports he flirted with it. There were reports. I think he's going to end up endorsing Biden, whether it's today, tomorrow, after the debate. And I think it helps nominally. It probably helps him with a point, you know, just because Clyburn's congressional district, that's who his like field captains and stuff will be out there pushing with their ballots on Saturday. But at the end of the day, I mean, he'll probably win South Carolina. Probably. Again, I think the bigger question is, does it matter for Super Tuesday, which is 4 days later? You know, if you're a Latino kid, if you're a Latino 27-year-old in Houston, does it matter if Biden wins South Carolina? I don't think so. Or a white liberal in Austin that's kind of more Bernie Warren type person. I don't think it's going to make a difference. But we'll see. We'll see. I think it makes a difference in a sense, Caesar, that if he wins, he sticks around for Super Tuesday and kind of mucks it up and helps Bernie. So if moderates really wanted to win, they would flip a coin or pick a card and pick one, and everybody else get out the way today. On terms of the rest of the candidates, really quickly, I've said this for 2 weeks. I'm going to keep saying it. Senator Warren's campaign is essentially over. Been over. A bad fourth in Nevada. I mean, if she's not getting traction in any of these states, it's not like working class African Americans are her base at all. So, you know, there's just nothing going on there. And Super Tuesday, again, with the exception of a Colorado, I just don't see a state where, you know, that kind of fits her model. She's been a 12 to 15% candidate this whole time, essentially, and it's over. The only reason she stays in, I think, is for two reasons. One is I think just because of the volume on Super Tuesday, she'll connect enough delegates to be able to leverage that as a negotiating point moving forward with Sanders and others. And I think quiere joder la vida de Bloomberg tomorrow. She wants to keep cooking them. So I think she kind of enjoys it. And she's good at it. And we enjoy her doing it. And we encourage it. But that's really it. That campaign's really, it's just over. So, and I don't say that because I'm happy about it. I'm saying that because I know math, or enough math to understand how this is all going down. And there's just no lane for her at this point. So in terms of the other candidates, Pete Buttigieg, I mean, where's he going to turn? Because if without any minority support, there's not much there. There's no long-term viability to win the nomination. He could certainly hang in, and he might end up finishing second place in this process. But to win the nomination, I mean, and if Latinos now are going to be real engaged in voting for Bernie and not voting for him, then it even makes it more difficult for him. And that's basically the rest of the field. Bloomberg, he buys it out. Klobuchar relationship, it's over. Klobuchar's sticking around because she doesn't want to fall behind Pete. It's an ego thing at this point for her. It's an ego thing for her. Cesar Santiago, my compadre, says he saw a poll saying Bernie's leading in Massachusetts. That's crazy for Warren. Well, yeah, I mean, New Hampshire basically is just big chunks of New Hampshire that are like Boston suburbs, basically, and she didn't win them. So it's a little puzzling, frankly. But anyway, so that's where we're at, people. That's where we're at. The Latino wave, the tsunami's coming, to my delight, particularly with our young people. Our young people, please save us from ourselves, no question. And Bernie will keep winning until y'all do something different. And for my moderates that are upset about this, that are concerned, scared about the Senate, scared about Congress, to start organizing yourselves. That's all I got to say about it. This is your host, Ray Collazo, Found in Translation. Thank you so much for joining the live show. Café con Ray here this morning, as well as the video show on YouTube and the podcast. Anyone can download the podcast, and the radio show, WPPMOP 106.5 in Philadelphia. Let me share a story. In let me see. I guess it was 2009, I think, maybe 10. I'm driving to work. My boss called me, and he said, Ray, he did it. And I pull over, and I start crying on the side of the road. And I started crying because Justice Sonia Sotomayor was nominated by President Obama to be a Supreme Court justice. And the reason I was tearing, well, it was a happy moment for a lot of reasons. But it was a moment that hit me that all this work that we do, and I'm a little part of it, but all the work that people have done as activists to help others, to raise our voice in our society, to get Latinos to vote, to get a more positive image and identity for people of color, disenfranchised communities. It goes beyond just being Latino, frankly, or Puerto Rican or anything like that. Just like this work that so many of us commit to just help other people for equality in this country. And that means a lot of things to a lot of people, but just to, kind of to do that kind of work. You spend a lot of your time in your life wondering, what does it make any difference? And getting disillusioned and obviously thinking about the Trump era and other examples where it's like, is my drop in the bucket getting anybody wet? And that was a moment, and this happens, I guess, as you get older, and you go through different phases, where you see that it makes a difference. And you see that the collective work of people, particularly women, thinking about the symbolism of that nomination, brought to the table. And then, of course, it meant even was extra special to me because not only was Justice Sotomayor Latina, Justice Sotomayor Puerto Rican, but ella se llama Sonia. And Sonia's my mother's name. And my mother's birthday was yesterday, and we did what all Puerto Ricans do on their mom's birthday. I took her to Chinatown and with my kids, and we actually did have Puerto Rican food at a kiosk around the corner from Chinatown. But it's a whole other story. We walked around Chinatown, a nice time, and so just thinking about, Barry Bonds, who's a vilified sports figure, basically was one of the greatest baseball players we ever saw. But he got caught up in a steroid adder, and he sort of was kind of a jerk of a character when he played with the media and fans and stuff. He was kind of a surly guy, so he doesn't have a good reputation, but was an incredible player, regardless of when he took steroids, when he didn't take steroids. He was one of the best. But the one thing that about Barry Bonds, I always really appreciated was when he would talk about why he played. And he would talk about how, he's like, I work hard, I play every day, I never take a day off. I even though I'm a great player, I practice because I do it to honor the legacy of his father, Bobby Bonds, who was a very good player, kind of a jerk too, but a very good player, and his godfather, Willie Mays, who was the greatest player of the last 50 years, 60 years. And he talked about the significance of not only them being great players and sort of from a family level honoring their legacy, but honoring their role as African American pioneers in the sport of baseball. And so I always kind of thought about my career that way. That, I enjoy the work, I have to have a passion for it. And my particular history, sort of growing up in a relatively smaller, segregated, newer Latino community in Philadelphia in the 70s and 80s, really shaped my worldview. My parents were sort of part of the tail end of the Brown Power movement, the Black Civil Rights movement in Philadelphia, the Black political movement in Philadelphia, sort of a distinct history that led me to this. Party politics in Puerto Rico on my mom's side, with Don Alfredo Gonzalez, who was the sergeant of arms of the island in the late 80s. My grandfather's still alive, God bless him, in his 90s on the island. Yo lo bendiga, Don Alfredo, abuelo. But I always kind of felt that I do this for them at the end of the day, my mom, my family, and all my community, and wanting to show people that, we're not the frickin' Badlands. And there's so much beauty and so much intelligence, so much talent, and so much service with the people that I come from. And so, that sums up. There's no founded translation without Sonia Collazo. And the rest of my family. So happy birthday, Mom. I love you a lot. And, we're going to keep doing this for you and keep doing this for the Sonias in our lives that deserve the respect, the recognition, thinking about being in Las Vegas, thinking about the women and the culinary union, and particularly the women, the immigrant women. I think about them, the ones that clean your bed, that clean your rooms in the hotel rooms, serve cards, serve drinks, sell trinkets, do whatever they can to live this dream and support their families under scorn, under belittling, under, fought to create a very powerful labor union in Nevada that is going to make a big impact in this election nationally. Are scrawling and clatching to despite all the scorn, all the xenophobia, all the crap that they get, are fighting for us and fighting for their kids. And so many of us are the kids of those kind of strong women, those Sonias in our lives. Justice Sotomayor, keep fighting. I don't know if people saw that she wrote a scathing dissent on a Supreme Court decision that the 5 Republican appointed Supreme Court justices passed, that are going to let public charge, which is a ridiculous new rule that the Trump administration just passed, and is finally now being codified through the Supreme Court, for basically how the administration and the Supreme Court is allowing themselves, the majority, to be manipulated by this administration to co-sign on these draconian anti-American laws that Trump administration keeps pushing, that's now going to prevent more legal immigration and prevent a lot of more chaos, more confusion, and more family separation in the immigrant and minority communities. So Justice Sotomayor, keep the fight going. I encourage people to Google her dissent. It's a very powerful statement. Let me just read one part of it here. What an incredible writer this woman is. Let me just read her last comment here. In her dissent on Friday, Sotomayor expressed fear about the precedent set by granting these stays. I fear, quote, she wrote, quote, that the disparity in treatment erodes the fair and balanced decision-making process that this court must strive to protect. A Puerto Rican woman from the Bronx, grew up as a child diabetic, grew up poor, grew up losing her father as a small girl with a single mother, grew up in poverty, pulled herself up from her bootstraps to go to Princeton, have a storied academic and legal career. She was the most qualified justice appointed in 80 years when she was appointed by the Trump and confirmed by the Senate in 2010. That woman is holding up the flag for our democracy. So I stand with Sonia and all the Sonias in our lives. Thank you so much for joining Found in Translation. Keep supporting the movement, people. I got to go to work. I got to get the kids to school. But thank you so much for joining the Found in Translation movement. Again, it's subscribing and downloading the podcast, reviews. It's very, very helpful. Subscribing and reviewing the YouTube page at youtube.com/race podcast is very helpful, fam. Keep sharing and supporting what we're doing here. Thank you for the support for my TV appearance. There's a lot of bochincha about and a lot of tidbits, which I'll share in future episodes about my interactions with leaders, including presidential campaign managers this week in Las Vegas, which we'll get into another time. But we're going to keep giving you what you want, people. The straight truth about what's going on with politics and today's hottest issues. Thank you so much, family, for enjoying Café con Ray, and have a wonderful day. Peace.